In January of 1996, a 28-store Midwest hardware chain closed every location it had. Over 2,500 employees lost their jobs in a matter of weeks. The chain had been operating for years in Illinois, Ohio, Michigan, Missouri, and Kentucky. It had been growing through acquisitions, adding Forest City Lumber in 1987 and 21 Central Hardware locations in 1989. At the time of its collapse, it carried over $120 million in debt and had filed for bankruptcy 3 months earlier. The chain was called Handy Andy, and when the Chicago home improvement market opened up after Handy Andy closed, Menards was already there. 12 stores already operating in suburban Chicago. A manufacturing plant already supplying them with windows, doors, and millwork at margins Handy Andy could not match. Ready to absorb the customers that a direct regional competitor had just abandoned. What Menards did to Handy Andy, and then to Builders Square, and then to every other regional chain that competed with it in the Midwest through the 1990s, was not an accident of timing. It was the compounding consequence of a single strategic decision made 2 decades earlier. The chain was called Handy Andy, and it died the way most companies die when a better structured competitor enters their market at the wrong moment. Not because of any single bad decision, but because the decisions that had looked smart during the years of growth created obligations that became fatal when the competitive pressure intensified. Handy Andy grew through acquisitions. Each acquisition required debt. By the time Menards arrived in Chicago with 12 stores and vertical integration behind every product on the shelf, Handy Andy was a chain paying interest on $120 million while competing against a chain that had built its entire infrastructure from internal cash flow and owed nobody anything. The pricing strategy that Menards used to kill Handy Andy was simple. It priced below what a debt-carrying competitor could sustainably match. The competitor chose between losing money on every transaction to compete or losing customers by not competing. It chose a combination of both, and neither choice was sustainable. To understand why Handy Andy failed while Menards thrived in the same markets at the same time, you have to understand what Midwest manufacturing was doing for Menards' cost structure while Handy Andy was acquiring hardware chains on borrowed money. Menards opened its first big box format store in Chippewa Falls, Wisconsin in 1976. Through the 1980s, it expanded across the upper Midwest, financing every new store from the cash the previous stores generated. No bonds, no acquisitions funded by third-party debt, no interest obligations eating into the margin on every product sold. And simultaneously, Menards was developing its own manufacturing divisions, including windows, doors, millwork, and steel siding, through what would become Midwest Manufacturing. A window manufactured by Midwest Manufacturing and sold at a Menards store had no manufacturer margin between factory and shelf. A window sold at Handy Andy was purchased from a third-party manufacturer who priced it to cover their own margin, sales costs, and research and development. Handy Andy paid that margin. Menards did not. That difference compounded across every SKU in the building materials category, which is the highest revenue category in any home improvement store. By 1993, Menards had 88 stores and $1.7 billion in revenue, was in the middle of a major Chicago expansion, and was preparing for Home Depot's arrival in September of 1994. Handy Andy had 28 stores, over $120 million in debt, and was competing in the same Chicago market against a chain that could price lower on building materials without losing money because it manufactured those materials itself. The math had been running against Handy Andy for years before the bankruptcy filing in October of 1995. Here is where the story stops being about one competitor and starts being about a pattern. Builders Square was not a small regional chain. It was a national operation owned by Hechinger Company, the Washington, D.C.-based retailer that had at one point been the largest home improvement chain in the United States before Home Depot's rise. Hetchinger had expanded aggressively through the 1980s and early 90s, acquiring and building stores across multiple regions, including the Midwest. Builders Square operated primarily in the Midwest and Southeast. In the Midwest, Builders Square competed directly with Menards in markets where Menards' vertical integration advantage was sharpest: building materials, lumber, windows, doors. Hetchinger filed for bankruptcy in June of 1999. Builders Square closed all remaining locations. The chain that had once been the country's largest home improvement retailer was gone. The common thread between Handy Andy and Builders Square is not market conditions or management failure. Both chains operated in the same market conditions that Menards operated in through the same period. Both faced the same Home Depot expansion into Midwest markets. Both experienced the same economic cycles. What distinguished them from Menards was not the environment they operated in. It was the balance sheet they carried into that environment. Handy Andy had over $120 million in debt. Hetchinger and Builders Square carried significantly more. Menards had no disclosed debt because it had never borrowed to grow. When the competitive pressure required lowering prices to retain customers, Menards could lower prices because its cost structure, built on internal cash flow and captive manufacturing, supported the lower price. The debt-carrying chains could lower prices only by accepting losses they could not sustain indefinitely. The pricing strategy that killed Handy Andy and Builders Square was not complicated. It was not predatory pricing in the legal sense, and no court ever established that Menards priced below cost to eliminate competition. The strategy was simpler than that, and more durable. Menards built its cost structure so far below its competitors' cost structure that pricing at a level customers preferred generated a healthy margin for Menards while generating losses for competitors who tried to match it. The pricing was the output of the structure, not the strategy itself. The strategy was the structure. Build your own manufacturing, finance your own growth, owe nobody anything, and let the competitors who borrowed to grow discover what happens when you have to service debt while competing against someone who does not. The detail that closes this story is what happened to the customers after Handy Andy closed and after Builders Square closed. They did not go to Home Depot. Home Depot entered Chicago in September 1994 and was competing in those markets, but in the specific neighborhoods and smaller Midwestern markets where Handy Andy and Builders Square had operated, Menards was the accessible option. Customers who had been buying lumber and tools at Handy Andy went to Menards. Customers who had priced building materials at Builders Square went to Menards. The market share that two regional chains built over combined decades of operation transferred, at least in significant part, to the chain that had priced them into bankruptcy by simply refusing to carry debt while they did. In 1998, 4 Milwaukee-area Menards stores held market leadership despite Home Depot's arrival in that market. The chain that ended 1993 with 88 stores and $1.7 billion in revenues grew to 139 stores and $4 billion in sales by 1998. It is today at 341 stores and $13.2 billion in annual revenue. Handy Andy is a Wikipedia article. Builders Square is a Wikipedia article. Menards is still pricing windows from its own factory in Wisconsin. If this changed how you think about why certain stores survive when others do not, subscribe. The pricing decisions that look aggressive from the outside are almost always structural, and the structure that produces them is usually built long before anyone realizes what it is capable of doing to the competition.